I will call this meeting to order. It is the regular Housing Redevelopment Authority meeting of August 21st, 2023, and it is 7 p.m. At this time, we will have our open forum. So each speaker is to keep their comment period to 3 minutes to allow sufficient time for others. Comments are an opportunity to address the HRA, and you can refer to the HRA agenda and minutes webpage for additional ways to submit comments. You may also call 612-861-9764 or email ldubois@richfieldmn.gov with questions. You can call into the open forum by dialing 1-415-655-0001 and use webinar access code 2631-668-3301, and the password is 1234. If there's anyone here to speak this evening for the open forum, you can come up to the lectern and sign your name and address, and please speak into the microphone. Again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Ruane Onesirosan, 2421 West 65th Street. I have 2 questions. Speaking hypothetically, I, as a developer of a 150-unit apartment building, qualify for tax subsidies. The HRA approves that I not pay taxes over a specified number of years. How does this subsidized amount appear on the HRA balance sheet as an annual balance entry, budget entry? Secondly, do the HRA bylaws place a cap upon the amount that may be considered by this body? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Is anyone dialed in? No. Okay. If anyone does, we will stop and we can listen to what they have to say. At this time, then, I will ask for, there might be a correction to the meeting minutes. Do we want to talk about what the correction is first?
Yes, I had noticed on the June 20th meeting minutes for item 6 where we were considering a request to modify and then terminate the Best Buy minimum assessment agreement. If you go to the second paragraph under item 6, it says Best Buy representative Tracy Smith stated that they reached out to the school district and the county. She stated the county is reviewing its approval. Then it says that the superintendent stated there would be no financial impact, and he actually wasn't at the meeting, so Ms. Smith was relaying that the superintendent had told her that there would be no financial impact. So I wanted to make sure that we noted that she was the one making that statement.
Thank you.
So with that, I would move the minutes with that correction.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the meeting minutes with the correction noted. Any other further question, comments, or corrections? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. We will maybe move on to item number 1, which is the HRA and EDA budget presentation. I think we're working on getting that pulled up, and we'll just give these guys a minute to do that.
Kept.
Well, you could just use the agenda because it's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's like little white buttons that still work.
Remember pages on.
What used to be?
Is that it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I don't know why it's not. His buttons worked.
I wonder if they work on
Okay. Just checking here. Our presentation isn't working, so I'm just going to scroll through in your agenda since the presentation is there anyway. So tonight I'm going to walk us through the 2023 revised and 2024 proposed HRA budget. Start out with just a reminder of the role of the HRA in the city. And it's listed here, but to a significant degree, the growth, vitality, and competitive position of the community rests with the programs that we operate out of the HRA and that we administer here. The programs invest in both residential and commercial areas throughout the community, and I've listed the areas of focus here. Generally, it's housing assistance, rental housing support, housing improvement and new construction, and then redevelopment planning, administration, marketing, and project management. We always like to start with the staff as a reminder of all of the people that do this work for you. The HRA pays at least 50% of the salary of 9 CD employees. That's about half of our department. That includes myself, Assistant Director Julie Urban, our Economic Development Manager Jan Youngquist, Housing Specialists Celeste McDermott and Brian Derwachter, our new accountant Colleen Thornburg, Administrative Assistant Latanya Dubois, Multifamily Housing Administrator Lynette Chambers, and our Section 8 technicians, Michelle Luna and Talisa Parson. And just a note that the Section 8 techs and also a lot of Lynette's salary are primarily funded by the federal government, and that's funding from HUD. So the 2023 revised and 2024 HRA budgets are listed here. These are the total budgets. And the HRA budget, as you can see, varies significantly from year to year. That's for several reasons, and the fluctuation in those numbers can be confusing and be misunderstood. So a few reasons for this. First is that our work doesn't happen in a vacuum. We need projects to come in to help support. We don't fund these projects on our own. We're doing this work in partnership with private investment. And often opportunities present themselves that we weren't anticipating when we were developing the budget the previous year. Also, the budget reflects a lot of pass-through funding, such as the federal Section 8 money that I just mentioned, also grant money. This graph here is showing expenditures. It is not showing revenues. So it's showing the money, it's not showing that the grant money is coming in and moving out. It's just showing that the grant money came to us and we have now paid it out. So these numbers, again, fluctuate a lot and can be a little bit confusing. The 2023 revised budget increases significantly over 2023 approved, and I've listed some of the reasons here. Those include the Woodlawn Terrace utility improvement and rehab funds that will be expended this year, or that we hope will be expended this year. Section 8 increased funding. Again, that's that pass-through, so you're not seeing it come in this number, you're just seeing it go out. And then MICC and the Woodlawn Terrace grants. Again, pass-through funding there. The 2024 proposed budget decreases over the 2023 approved, and that's because there are fewer large projects on the horizon. We do anticipate that this will, just like 2023 revised, increase for 2024 revised as our spending priorities and plans for the new sales tax have yet to be determined, and projects, again, that we're not anticipating right now will come in over the next year, and we will revise the budget accordingly and obviously come to you for those approvals. Okay, one other thing on these, something that tends to be masked in these numbers because they're large and the project funds are large, is that roughly 10% of this increase is administrative costs, staffing, insurance, technology needs, physical building space. Because much of the work that we do is related to administration of programs and projects that are related to our tax increment districts, much of that is absorbed by the funding that comes in from those districts. Not only does that funding pay for a lot of the programs itself, it also gives us money to pay to administer those. So we've been talking to you about that for the last several years. As some of these large districts roll off, we will not only need to look for sources of funding for the programs, but also for the staffing that pays to administer those programs. And this next slide helps to illustrate some of these things. So the top half of the chart is intended to show you where the budget money comes from. Taxes, obviously, this is the amount collected through the levy. You'll note the large increase in 2024 proposed. That column includes the newly approved 0.25% metro sales tax for affordable housing. So what we're expecting in 2024 is $473,000. So that's why that number is so much larger. Intergovernmental revenues include CDBG, HUD funds, grants, things coming from other government agencies that we are then putting out into the community. Miscellaneous revenues are things like loan repayments, land sales. This 2023 revised includes those fees for the dominium conduit bonding, that's in there. So just miscellaneous things that don't fit into these other categories. Transfers are monies coming in from other funds, like tax increment that's coming in. The housing and redevelopment, it also includes general fund transfers, development fund transfers. So this isn't all necessarily new money. It's money that we're moving around from different, a lot of it is money that we're moving around from different pots because we've found a place to spend it. And then on the bottom half of this chart, this is what the HRA spends its money on and is planning to spend money on. A breakdown of the totals, it's a breakdown of the totals that you saw on the last slide. I revised this year to hopefully simplify and clarify where we're using this money. Personnel is pretty self-explanatory. Obviously, you're seeing that increase in staff costs there. Administration, these are non-operating expenses, things like rent. The HRA pays rent to the city to operate within its space. Insurance, equipment, also includes things like professional development. We've got a lot of new staff. We have a lot of professional development costs. And then programming. This is the money that's going out into the community, programs that you are authorizing us to spend our pooled TIF and other funds on. So this is a history of the HRA levy. Prior to 2019, we had always maximized the levy. That hasn't been our recommendation for the past several years. And as I've said in past years, the reason for that is that we're trying to look holistically at all of the levies. That includes the city, the EDA, even the school district, and trying to understand and recognize the impact on the taxpayers of each of these levies together. So taking into account that, we are proposing a 3.5% increase to the HRA levy this year. You might wonder, with the significant new funding that was approved by the legislature, why we would need to increase the levy at all. And while the legislature approved money for programs, they generally did not approve money to administer those programs. So although we are still waiting on some of those details, a lot of details. About 40% of levy dollars go towards staff costs. So that's why there is still a levy, or part of why there's still a proposed levy increase. Based on the average home value of $308,000, the 3.5% levy impact on a property owner would be, on a single-family homeowner, would be $1.55, and that's the annual increase. So then just to cover some of the things that we have been working on with the money allocated for 2023, like many of the divisions in the city, we've experienced significant turnover over the past few years. For the first time since 2021, we are fully staffed. That is only as of July, so that's new and exciting. We have a strong and passionate team. There is still a lot of work to do to fully train and onboard everybody, but I'm really excited about the group of people that we have working for the HRA now. I'm also excited to be able to lighten the load on many of the folks who have been doing more than their share for the last 18 months. We've been doing ongoing work to evaluate our housing programs. In 2023, Richfield Rediscovered was updated to emphasize sustainability, diversity, some modest density increases. And through those revised guidelines, we're now working to develop a duplex or maybe even two on some HRA-owned lots. We're demonstrating how our new zoning allowances can work out in the community. We've got Woodlawn Terrace, RF64 townhomes that are now complete. Linview is on its way to completion. Richfield Flats, we continue to work with MWF on that project, as well as Astor Commons and Beacon, MICC, and the Legion. So still a lot of projects that we're working on. The 77th Street underpass is now complete, and we've got an exciting proposal for a velodrome there. We are working with private property owners and the Minnesota Cycling Association there. We were able to negotiate deeper affordability as part of the Upper Post Landing project at Fort Snelling. As a reminder, that project feeds into the Richfield School District. For the first time since the pandemic, we are restarting our remodeled home tour. That is coming in just a couple of months, so look for some information on that. We continue to administer our Section 8 and Kids at Home programs, serving more than 325 households. We administer our single-family programs, fund technical and financial remodeling programs, and administer 13 active TIF districts. Looking ahead to 2024, now that we're fully staffed, we're going to focus on training for our new employees and education and growth for our experienced staff. We're going to continue to evaluate and market the HRA-owned properties that we have scattered across the community. We've adopted a spending plan for our pooled TIF, so now we're exploring projects, ways to help projects that meet our goals. We've got a lot of new programs, a lot of new funding that came out of the legislative session. We need to fully evaluate and work with staff who's developing the details of those programs so that we can fully take advantage of that money that will be coming our way. And then continuing to shepherd our redevelopment projects, many of which I just mentioned, and our TIF districts. So looking ahead, there are a lot of things to be excited about, continue to be excited about. The spending plan, the Affordable Housing Trust, the money there is significant. We have an opportunity to help a lot of priority projects, development opportunities like the 77th Street underpass area, hopefully the hub, the World of Fish property, the Legion. We've got a number of affordable and unique projects moving ahead like Beacon and MICC and MWF, a lot of acronyms there, but I think you all know those programs and proposals. And then new funding through the Metro Sales Tax and State Voucher Program. But we do have challenges. There are increased construction costs and financing costs, and development is slowing. While that's a challenge for some of our projects that we've got in the works now, we've come back to you with a couple of projects that are struggling to make, to have those projects pencil out with these new interest rates. And some of the projects that aren't quite so far along are having to re-look at their numbers. So as development slows down, it can also present us with an opportunity, though. During the Great Recession, that's when we took the time internally to evaluate our programs and really set us up for the success that we've seen over this last 10 to 15 years. So there's a lot of brainstorming, looking ahead, teeing up, getting ready for new projects that are just a little bit farther down the line. New funding doesn't necessarily include funding for staff to administer it, like I mentioned before, and many of our partner organizations are also having capacity issues. So while we might have more funding, and we love working with the Land Trust and with Habitat and partners like that, the Land Trust and Habitat are also having trouble staffing up and increasing their capacity. So we're going to need to continue to work through some of those log jams. And then again, as some of our larger TIF districts decertify, HRA funding will become more difficult. Right now, the large districts pay a lot of money into the Housing and Redevelopment Fund to fund the programs and fund land purchases, fund staff. The districts, as they decertify, they'll, again, bring in less revenue for programs, less revenue for staff. And so we are planning for this. We're working closely with the city manager and the finance director to anticipate this starting in 2026. But for right now, we're just fine. So that's all I've got for the HRA. I will open it up if anyone has questions.
Anyone have questions? I have questions.
I just want to say thank you for the thorough report and all the work that the staff has been doing. Appreciate it.
I guess a clarification, and just want to make sure super clear. Under the funding sources from the HRA budget, the taxes increased from 2023 to 2024. The majority of that is coming from the sales tax, not an increase in property tax.
That is correct. That is correct. I don't have that exact number here, but the 473,000 of that, which is the vast majority of that, is coming from that metro sales tax, yes.
Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. And I will just chime in as well. Thank you for all the work and the planning ahead. You know, I appreciate that we've been talking about it for the past couple of years as well, and that we continue to plan ahead for those decertifications. Looking at the expenditures for 2024 and the lower amount of programming, is that tied to a specific program like Kids at Home, Richfield Rediscovered, or is it more just holding for particular projects that come up?
Right. The Kids at Home and most of our programs are maintaining their funding or even increasing a little bit. Some of our programs where we've upped the requirements, we've actually upped the budgets for those programs to make sure that we're incentivizing those things. The drop here that you're seeing is that we're not allocating those large sums to projects. We don't have a Linview project right now that we're anticipating giving $500,000 to. We don't know what those might be. Those could come, but our kind of bread and butter programming funding is staying stable or slightly increasing.
Thank you. I see no other questions.
All right.
Thank you again, and thank you to all the staff who pulled that together. Maybe Executive Director Palman might have a question?
Thank you, Chair Vrees Daniels. On the agenda here, it lists both HRA and EDA budget presentations. I'm just wondering if you'd like me to hold until the EDA meeting for the EDA presentation.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Good call. Thank you. All right, we will then move on to item number 2, which is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion for approval? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of the agenda. Any comments, questions, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries and the agenda is approved. We will move on to item number 3, the consent calendar. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you, Chair Vrees Daniels. The consent calendar contains several separate items which are acted upon by the HRA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further HRA action on these items is necessary. Item A, cancellation of a public hearing regarding consideration of an amended business subsidy policy. Item B is consideration of a revised fee schedule for housing programs and loan administration. And that concludes tonight's consent agenda.
I would move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries and the consent calendar has been approved. Therefore, we'll skip item number 4. Item number 5 is a consider resolution approving proposal. Executive Director Palman.
Thank you. The bylaws of the Richfield HRA require that an annual budget be submitted to the HRA commissioners for approval. Accordingly, the 2024 proposed budget and tax levy and 2023 revised budget are presented for approval. And those are included not as part of your packet, but on our website and also provided to you by email and in the packet. In addition, Minnesota state statutes require adoption of a preliminary tax levy from each taxing authority. The proposed tax levy must be certified to the Hennepin County Auditor by September 30th, 2023. Any amendments to the proposed budget, which would increase the property tax levy, must be made prior to September 30th, 2023. No increases in the tax levy are permissible after that date, only reductions. Final certification of the HRA levy is part of the city's budget process. The recommended tax levy, as I mentioned, is proposed at 3.5% increase from the previous year's levy. And that concludes staff's report.
Is there a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Anyone with comments or questions? Yes.
I had a question. So you said we cannot, after September 30th, you can't raise it, but you could lower it. And you had mentioned that there's still some of the funding influx from the state. So I'm assuming this is done conservatively. So if we get more money than expected, we could lower it, but we don't expect to have to raise it. Is that accurate?
That's correct. You know, the funding from the state, we will start to get those Metro sales tax funds next year. And that money we can anticipate. The other programs that this will likely take the state a few years to develop. So this money will be collected. If we don't spend it, if we don't need it, it will be put in HRA reserves and could be used in the following year. And that levy could thereby be lower.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Moving us to item number 6, which is a public hearing. Executive Director Panley?
Thank you. I'm going to ask Assistant Director Julie Urban to present the staff report.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the HRA. Munira Ali Yusuf, Abduriziak Yahi Abdunor, and Naimo Abdullahi Faro are applying to purchase the lot at 6600 Newton Avenue South from the Housing and Redevelopment Authority for the construction of a duplex. The buyers are working with Benjamin Akibe of Benno's Homes to construct the home. The buyers are family members who will own and occupy both units in the duplex. The duplex will feature 3 finished bedrooms in one unit and 5 finished bedrooms in the other unit, as well as a detached 2-car garage. Each unit will have approximately 2,900 finished square feet. Additionally, the home will include accessibility features such as wider doorways and wheelchair-accessible bathrooms on the main level, as well as sustainability features, including Energy Star certification. 3 high-priority oak trees have been identified on the lot, 2 of which will need to be removed in order to construct the home. The builder will work with a tree care company to preserve the remaining oak. In 2020, 6600 Newton Avenue South, along with 6600 Logan Avenue South, were conveyed to the HRA from Hennepin County following the reconstruction of 66th Street. There was no cost to the HRA to acquire the properties. The 2 remnant lots were designated for new construction in order to offset the loss of 18 homes that were removed from 66th Street prior to reconstruction. The lot at 6600 Newton Avenue was designated for the Richfield Rediscovered program, which, as you know, is our market rate new construction program. And the lot at 6600 Logan was developed earlier this year through the New Home program, which is our affordable new construction program. The objective of the Richfield Rediscovered program is to replace smaller substandard and blighted homes in Richfield with larger market rate homes that help to diversify the city's housing stock. A request for proposals for the lot at Newton Avenue was released in May 2023, indicating a preference towards applications that feature a duplex. The application from the buyers was the only application we received. The property is being sold for $88,000. The property appraised at $121,000 as a vacant lot, but a $20,000 discount is being provided to offset the cost of building a duplex. There's a $3,000 discount to move the existing landscaping and irrigation systems, and an additional $10,000 discount is provided for meeting green credit standards. And that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. The builder and the home buyers are in present here also if you have any questions for them.
Great, thank you. We'll start with questions and then perhaps open the public meeting. Yes, Sherry?
Couple questions, and some of them are probably just generally about the way Richfield Rediscovered Homes work. But well, first off, I just want to say I'm really excited about this. It's great to see our first Richfield Rediscovered duplex, and this just like looks really nice. So congratulations and thank you for bringing this forward. My questions are, given that we'd have owners in both halves, will it remain one parcel? Could it be split as a Richfield Rediscovered home, or is that just not part of this consideration?
The plan is for it to remain one lot. As our former planner, I don't think it's big enough to split into two.
Commissioner Hayford O'Leary, that's correct. I don't believe it is, although we did write in to our subdivision regulations some allowances for things like twin homes, but I would need to look at the particulars of that. It isn't part of this consideration tonight. If in the future the owners wanted to split ownership, we would evaluate it at that time.
Okay. Another question I have is does this meet our current zoning code, or will this also go to the Planning Commission for variances or other consideration?
It meets all the current codes.
Okay, that is what I thought, and I want to say how cool that is, because even if we allowed duplexes, had we not changed, for example, our garage rules, they would have had to use their entire yard for the garage and go over the impervious surface limit. So it's cool to see how the changes in one area of fixing our zoning code allow us to do something that relates to our housing goals here. So I'm just really pleased about that. The other question I have, which is just a general question about the owner-occupied requirement, is how that works. Is that just apply to the first owner, or if these property owners sell in 5 years, does it like stay with the property as like a restrictive covenant, or how is that enforced in the future?
We do not enforce it for the future. It's just
Okay.
for the initial owners.
Okay, that is all of my questions. And again, I'm just really excited about this, and both a duplex and seeing a detached garage, because that's been so much an expectation of new homeowners, but it really allows us to have a much better design, not having that garage attached to the main house.
Other questions? All right, we do need to open a public hearing, and so, gosh, it's been a while since I've done this. I think we will open the meeting. If anyone here from the public would like to speak on this, you can have 3 minutes to come talk to us, and you're welcome to come up. Just state your name and address and sign in.
Oops. Okay, I live in the neighborhood, so I was curious as to see what the plans are. When you talk about a duplex, is this going to be, you're talking about like 5 bedrooms in each unit and everything? Is that figuring the basement also? Basement and main level? Because I assume the duplex is going to be on one level, right? Is there even like a picture of what this proposed house is going to look like?
I don't typically answer questions during public comment, but I think we can throw this up because I think it's useful for everyone. Yes, thank you.
How
Do we still have an overhead camera?
does it work? Do we have a camera in? So what
New technology.
do I do?
Dustin, I look to you.
I can also, if you want to give me an email address, I can send you,
Julie, he's going to go back to the packet, and you can scroll to the page in the staff report. Here we go. Here. I'll scroll.
oh, we can't scroll from here?
We'll just scroll through so the audience can see as well.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Now, when do they plan on building this?
They hope to start this fall. They hope to start the construction this fall. So it would be finished sometime next year.
Okay, so here is the home. It's a two-story home. The duplex are side by side in style. If you scroll further through the packet, you can see a main level. Oops, I think it was the other way. I believe this is the basement,
Yeah.
main level, and upper. And these plans are available on the website. They're also available in this hard copy packet. But there are bedrooms on the top and lower levels.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak for the public hearing? Anyone call in? Someday, someone's going to call in. Maybe, no. Okay. Anyone calling in?
There's no one online.
Okay, thank you. All right.
What side is what side is going to face Newton?
Julie's getting her steps in today.
So this is the front of the house, and this is what faces Newton. Right here. And this is what faces 66th Street.
Okay.
So 66th, that faces to the west, so towards Penn Avenue, and then that's the south.
Thank you. Seeing no one else for the public hearing, I'd ask if there's a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. Any comments? Questions? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The public hearing has been closed. All right. So at this time, I would ask if there is a motion that anyone would like to entertain.
I will move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the sale of 6600 Newton Avenue South to the applicants listed. Can we make these motions together, or should they be separate? Okay, then I make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? Yes, go ahead.
I was going to agree with Commissioner Hayford O'Leary that it's really exciting to see an actual duplex, because that was the idea, to use the Richfield Rediscovered program to test out some new things. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how this all works, and also welcome to the new homeowners.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment that I think it's really exciting that we're seeing examples of these remnant properties that were a result of the 66th Street redevelopment now being sold and going for very positive developments.
I will just chime in as well. I agree. I was very excited to see the duplex coming in and to see these lots being utilized, and very much welcome to the neighborhood. I am one of your neighbors, so who lives very close. So excited to see a detached garage as well, and a new entrance on and off 66th Street. So I can share some tips with you later how to get on and off. Any other comments? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I just want to say the overall design is really nice. I also just really appreciate that there are windows also facing 66. I know it's a busier street and not everybody wants those, but it does look a lot more neighborly when we see the windows. So I hope this house works really well for you all.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes. And I believe we have a secondary motion? Yes, go ahead.
I move that we authorize execution of a contract for private development between the Housing and Redevelopment Authority and the applicants listed for the redevelopment of 6600 Newton Avenue South.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No one? And the motion passes. All right, this gives us to item number 7, HRA discussion items. Does anyone have any HRA discussion items? Yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment that we did more interviewing for the vacant HRA seat, and I'm looking forward to the new appointment on September 12th, whatever that ends up being. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. That takes us to item number 8, Executive Director's Report.
Thank you. I have 2 items for you tonight, and the first I mentioned in the presentation. We've got our Richfield Remodelers Showcase back live since the first time since pre-pandemic. That will be on Saturday, October 7th. So look for more information on that. It'll go out on our social media channels and all of those things. And then also to let you know that the city submitted a grant application on behalf of the Beacon Astor Commons project. That's an LCDA TOD grant. That's Livable Communities Demonstration Act Transit on Demand grant from the Met Council, asking for $1.1 million grant for that project. So we'll be waiting to hear on that later this year. And that's all.
All right, taking us to item number 9, claims. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments or questions on claims? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And that takes us to item number 10, which is adjournment of the HRA meeting. Thank you, everyone. We will wait a hot second and move over to the EDA. I'm going to grab it. Everybody ready? Yeah? All right. I will call the meeting of the Richfield Economic Development Authority of August 21st, 2023, and it is 7:43. We will start with the open forum. So each speaker is to keep their comment period to 3 minutes to allow sufficient time for others. Comments are an opportunity to address the EDA. Please refer to the EDA agenda and minutes webpage for additional ways to submit comments. You may also call 612-861-9764 or email ldubois@richfieldmn.gov with questions. You can call into the open forum by dialing 1-415-655-0001 and use webinar access code 2631-668-3301. The passport is 1234. Seeing no one in the room, is there anyone online?
There is not.
Okay, so we're going to move on to approval of the minutes of the regular Economic Development Authority meeting of June 20th, 2023.
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, changes? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting minutes are approved. Taking us to item number 1, which is approval of the agenda for this evening.
I move approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, changes?
So where are we going to add the budget report for the, is it like right at, before the consent agenda, or where are we putting that in?
Let's move that to, yes, before the consent agenda.
We wouldn't just want to do it with the item about the property tax then?
Sure. Let's do it with that. We will do it with the resolution. So before number 4, after number 3. Excellent. Good call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the motion passes. Item number 2, Executive Director Peelman,
Thank you.
still here.
Still my title, yep. The consent calendar, in this case, contains just one item, which is acted upon the EDA in one motion. Once the consent calendar has been approved, the individual items and recommended actions have also been approved. No further EDA action on these items is necessary. The single item on tonight is consideration of a revised fee schedule for housing programs and loan administration. And I submit the consent calendar for consideration.
Thank you. All those in favor, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent calendar is approved. Item number 4.1. Oh,
Oh, okay.
I was scrolling.
They're trying to trick me. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, thank you, tech support. Tonight, I'm going to present to you now the 2023 revised and 2024 proposed Economic Development Authority budget. Again, the role of the EDA, it's to fund beneficial economic development, business assistance, and housing assistance programs. The areas of focus for the EDA include business assistance, our housing assistance programs. In this case, that would be the Kids at Home program and transformation loan, and then our apartment remodeling programs. There are, again, a few well-established programs that are funded by the EDA, but based on priorities identified by the Council, the HRA, and the EDA, we've been working toward a more robust offering of business assistance programming, and that is coming here. You'll see that in our 2023 and 2024 work. Again, starting with staff, the EDA has never really had dedicated staff. It's facilitated by help from several people spending small portions of their time on this work. The big change for 2023 was the creation of a new economic development manager position, and that's Jan Youngquist. And she spends a significant amount of her time building up our business-focused programs, as well as working on redevelopment. Staff that supports the EDA includes Jan, our multifamily housing administrator, Lynette Chambers, housing specialist Celeste McDermott and Brian Durwachter, assistant planner Ruby Villa, myself, our accountants Colleen Thornburg, and our administrative assistant Latanya Dubois. Starting here with the approved, revised, and proposed budgets for 2023, 2023 revised, and 2024 proposed. The 2023 revised increases by about 5%, and that's really accounting, it's a $50,000 increase for transformation loan program, and that's accounting for loans that were approved in 2022, but are anticipated to pay out in 2023. And it's also an increase to fund the new incentives related to sustainability, accessibility, accessory dwelling units, et cetera. 2024, we're maintaining that 5% increase. Instead, we are using it once again to fund those those incentives related to sustainability, et cetera, but it's also covering increased staff costs. There's a 6.6% increase in staff costs in 2024. The proposed levy for 2024 is just shy of $600,000. The maximum amount we would be allowed to levy is about $880,000. The impact on an average homeowner, again, that's a $308,000 home, would be $1.33 for the year. As we did for the HRA, this slide is presenting the sources and uses of money in the EDA budget. Again, taxes, that's the amount, in this case, solely collected through the levy. Miscellaneous revenues are loan repayments, application fees, and investment earnings. You'll note a decrease here in those miscellaneous revenues, and with the current interest rates, we do not expect any loan payoffs due to home sales. Home sales are way down right now. And then what the EDA spends its money on, staff, you can see that 6.6% increase there. Admin, that's our non-operating expenses. In this case, it's primarily office supplies, professional development, things like rent and insurance, et cetera, are picked up by the HRA. Programming then and operating expenses, that's everything else. That's the money that we're programming and sending back out into the community. You'll see that in 2023 and 2024, our expenditures are exceeding our revenues. This is indicating that money we've been accumulating over the past several years, which was our strategy, is starting to be spent and programmed out into the community. Additionally, I will remind everyone that we do have this the spending plan that we adopted that has significant pooled TIF funds, and some of those funds could potentially be used in these business assistance programs and things like that. So we might not even end up dipping into our fund balances. We would spend the spending plan funds first if a project would qualify. Some notes, as a reminder, these are the programs that are funded by the EDA. We continue to have high demand for our energy efficient business grant program, transformation home loan program. We are working to fully utilize our apartment remodeling program funds by proposing to extend it to smaller single family rentals, as we've been doing under a pilot program. And then business development. Our economic development manager is hard at work getting to know the landscape of Richfield's business community and evaluating which business assistance programs we can bring on yet this year and which we can focus on for 2024. That's a real focus for us right now. And then also just a nod to Elevate Hennepin, who the EDA funds. They are proving to be a great partner for us, providing many resources for new and growing businesses. And the cost to the EDA for that is $5,000, but it's over 20 hours of free assistance to entrepreneurs in Hennepin County. It's a great program. We're happy to be part of it. And that's it for the HRA budget. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions? Nothing further from me either. Thank you. So at this time then, is there a motion to consider the resolution approving the proposed property tax levy?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
I mean, are we concerned that we didn't read the exact thing, or are we, everyone's on the same page? The same stuff applies, right?
The same stuff does apply. Maybe you want to read the motion so that
Okay,
it's clear exactly what you're moving.
I moved to adopt the attached resolutions approving the 2024 proposed Economic Development Authority budget and tax levy and 2023 revised Economic Development Authority budget, which represents a 3.5% increase from the previous year's levy. That was also what whoever seconded, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Seeing no comments or questions or concerns, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And the motion passes. All right. Then we are on to item number 5. Executive Director Pillman.
Thank you. I will ask Assistant Director Julie Urban to present the staff report.
Thank you. President and members of the EDA. The Economic Development Authority has an interest in maintaining and improving the city's apartment housing stock and incentivizing private investment in the community. To that end, the EDA created the Richfield Apartment Remodeling Program in 2018. The apartment remodeling program targets apartments with 4 or more units, and $100,000 has been budgeted for the apartment remodeling program each year. There are also approximately 900 single-family and duplex units in the city that provide rental housing and offer an important source of larger-sized rental units. These units also warrant investment. So in 2022, the EDA approved a pilot program that allowed up to $20,000 of the 2022 apartment remodeling funds to be used on improvements to these properties. One loan was issued under the pilot program in the amount of $8,600. The pilot program expired at the end of 2022, but continues to receive requests for rehabilitation funding resources. So staff is recommending that the EDA permanently expand the apartment remodeling program to include investments in single-family and duplex rental properties. Given the limited amount of funds available, staff recommends that apartments continue to be given priority, but that eligibility be opened up to include 1 to 3 unit rentals from August to December if funds remain available. And I would note that this year the funds are there to support additional loans to these types of properties. So in addition to this expansion, the following changes are being proposed to the guidelines. The maximum loan amount for 1 to 3 unit properties would be $10,000 per unit and $25,000 per building. An 100% match would also be required. A statement under the criteria for eligibility is being added to highlight that it's a priority to provide funds to housing that is affordable at 60% of the area median income. In other words, naturally occurring affordable housing. That's always been what we have said, but it wasn't terribly clear. I didn't fill in the guidelines and wanted to add that clarification. Group residential facilities and short-term rentals would not be eligible for assistance. An additional $1,000 per unit, up to a maximum of $10,000, could be added to the loan if the property performs an energy audit and adds energy efficiency improvements. An additional $1,000 per unit, up to a maximum of $10,000, could also be added to the loan if the property makes accessibility-related improvements. If a borrower were to sell a 1 to 3 unit property before the maturity date to an existing renter with a household income no more than 80% of the area median income, the loan would be forgiven. And then finally, we just added some clarifications to the listing of eligible and ineligible improvements based on some feedback we received from our city housing inspectors. And that concludes my report. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Anyone have any questions? All of my questions were answered in your very detailed report, so thank you.
I do have a comment for later, but I'll save it until after the motion.
All right, seeing there's no other questions, is there a motion?
Well, I'll make a motion to adopt an amendment to the apartment remodeling program guidelines, expanding the program eligibility to include 1 to 3 unit rental properties.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and you had a comment?
Yes, I was pleased to see that the short-term rentals would not be eligible for assistance because I have been receiving a lot of inquiries and feedback about bed and breakfasts and people wanting us to do more stricter oversight and regulations and things. So I'm guessing that they would not be pleased if we started giving people money to put them into short-term rentals. And I don't think that's the purpose of this. The purpose of this is to help with our existing 1 to 3 long-term, I guess long-term rentals maybe is the way to say it. So thank you for putting that in there.
Anyone else? Let's go ahead.
I'm just curious about the affordability requirement. So is there a requirement that prevents the property owner from increasing rent after receiving the subsidy, or is it just the guideline for?
It's a guideline right now.
Okay.
It's what we, the compliance piece takes a lot of capacity that we don't feel we have right now. So we're doing it this way by kind of hammering home the point and asking for what do they charge for rents. I think our feeling, especially with the apartments, is that with the money we give them, they're not going to get to a point where they can charge exorbitant rents. The first time I make a mistake and that happens, we'll have to revisit that, certainly.
Okay.
We're trying to get the money out there and really get stuff improved.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is kind of my hope, that if we're just at least generally monitoring it. It's obviously probably kind of hard with these smaller units where it might not be advertised, but with those bigger buildings, if we're seeing a significant increase, it maybe would want a stricter standard, but I understand the practicality of that now.
Right, and we have all these, smaller owners who, they don't have the capacity either to be doing that kind of work.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge. We did, in our pilot program, we learned a lot. We got an application from a short-term rental, from a group residential care facility, and from a unit that was charging more than 60% of the AMI for rent. So it was a good little practice. Of the four, only one was really what we wanted to serve with the money.
It has been moved and seconded. If there are no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. Item number 6, EDA discussion items. Any EDA? Yes, go ahead.
So we had a recent work session where an idea was proposed about a velodrome, and I was pleased to see that we ended up getting some media coverage on that. There's an article in the Star Tribune and in Finance and Commerce, so it is generating some talk out there. So it'll be interesting to see where this process takes us.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Executive Director's reports. Item number 8.
I do not have a report tonight.
Thank you. Claims. Is there a motion to approve claims?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any comments, questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The claims are approved. That takes us to adjournment. Thank you, everyone.